This episode of Playing on a Budget is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 source of games and gaming accessories, and by GatheringMagic.com, the #1 source of Magic the Gathering news and articles. Hi there, this is Kevin with GatheringMagic.com, here with this week's Playing on a Budget, the modern version. This deck is called Mono Black Infect. I've piloted this deck quite a bit, actually. I used to play this about 3 or 4 months ago when Jund was very big. It has pretty decent matchup against Jund, as you can kill basically any of their creatures in their deck and whittle down their hand with the various different cards like Inquisition or Raven's Crime or Funeral Charm and Wrench in Mind. So it's a very fun deck. So let's just go down the prices that it takes to build this deck. These prices are brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com. Let's start with the lands here. We got Bojuka Bogs. They're just commons. So they won't cost you anything, probably a dime a dozen, just like the swamps. Bojuka Bog is really good because it exiles their graveyard. So any sort of graveyard strategy deck, it's your land actually doubles as utility to get rid of any cards in the graveyard. We're starting to see a lot of graveyard strategies come up in Modern. Living End is becoming a very popular deck. So I've actually seen Bridge to Blow every now and again, and of course other decks like Eggs, but this Bojuka Bog actually doesn't work versus Eggs because Eggs gets back their stuff at end of turn, and you have to play Bojuka Bog before it exiles the graveyard, so it doesn't work versus Eggs. But it's not that big of a deal. Eggs is actually an easy matchup with this, as you get rid of the cards in their hands that are like the Inquisition can take away their second Sunrise, and then they just won't have enough cards to work with to actually go off. So swamps, of course, are a dime a dozen. We'll go to the first expensive card, this most expensive card out of the deck. It's Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. I already explained why it's in this deck. It's got great synergy with Funeral Charm, and that's basically it. That's why we're using it, just for the chance that you need to Funeral Charm, give a dude Swamp Walk, and swing for the win. Then we got the 4 of Inkmoth Nexuses. They are very, very powerful in this deck. They run about $6.50 right now, so $26 total for the 4 Inkmoth Nexuses, and they're very good with the Runechanter's Pike. So you slap an Inkmoth Nexus on a Runechanter's Pike, and you're good to go. Then we got a very, very expensive uncommon in the set. So this is I recommend that everyone check their trash pile, their draft trash that if they ever played during the Zendikar block, because there is some expensive commons and uncommons actually in the Zendikar block. Cards like Hedron Crab are commons that are almost worth $2 a piece, and this particular guy, this is Inquisition of Kozilek, is an $8 uncommon, and so a lot of people don't know the treasures they may have in their junk pile. $8 is a significant chunk of change, so yeah, definitely look through your Zendikar block stuff and see if you have any of these beauties lying around somewhere. Then we go on to Raven's Crime, which is a common. So it's going to cost $32, by the way, for the 4 Inquisitions. So that is the biggest chunk of change in this deck, is getting those Inquisitions. But they are still cheaper than Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize, of course, would work out very well in this deck. But Thoughtseize are incredibly expensive, and I'm hoping they do get reprinted in the Modern Masters, because yeah, it's very hard for anyone to afford these guys. I think they're like up to like 50 or 60 bucks, I do believe. Let's see if I can even find them here. Yep, Thoughtseize. This is what Thoughtseize looks like. So Inquisition is almost as good. Of course, Thoughtseize does cost you 2 life, but it can get any non-land card, not just cards with converted mana cost of 3 or less. But in Modern, 3 or less is usually what you want to take anyway. It takes basically most of the threats in the game. Like I said, it takes away the second Sunrise in Eggs. It takes away basically any of the tutors in Tron you can take away, and it's just very good against any aggro deck. You can basically take any card like a Lightning Bolt out of their deck. And Lightning Bolt's pretty bad against your deck to begin with. I'll explain why here in a second. Anyway, that's what Thoughtseize is, like I said, around 50 to 60 bucks though, so it's anything but budget, so I did not include it in this list. Going down, then we have Raven's Crime, which is just a common out of, I think, Eventide. Isn't that what this symbol is? I think that's what it is. And it's just a target player discards a card, Retrace. Retrace is really good because you only need about 3 lands in this deck, and then you're good to go. And so every land after that, you can just pitch to Raven's Crime. Disfigure kills anything early. Like I said, it kills the Deathrite Shamans, which is most important. You could actually put Deathrite Shamans in this deck, but then it loses its Infect feel. I have seen this version of this deck just use Vampire Nighthawks and the Deathrite Shamans as the kill conditions, but I do like the Infect cards a lot better. They're a lot quicker at finishing the opponent and a lot more resilient to removal than Deathrite Shamans are. Then we have Funeral Charm, which is awesome. It's probably the best card in the deck. It does, like I said, have that synergy with Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, as it can give one of your guys Swamp Walk to finish the game. But the really cool thing about Funeral Charm is it's instant speed, and it makes a player discard a card at instant speed. So you can wheedle down their deck, and on their draw phase, if they had 0 cards left, when they draw a card, you can instantly make them discard the card they just drew. And the +2/+1 is also very, very good. It can remove a lot of creatures like Grim Lavamancers and there's a lot of 1/1s in Modern, so yep. Stuff like Noble Hierarch, opposing Inkmoth Nexus, very good card. Then we got the Runechanter's Pike. It is our finisher. Runechanter's Pike, your creature gets +X/+0 and first strike, which is how many instances of sorceries you have. And our deck is just full of instances of sorceries. Even the card advantage is an instant or sorcery here. And so the vast majority of our deck will trigger the Runechanter's Pike, and a lot of times you can just swing in for either a 2-turn or a 3-turn kill. Sometimes even a 1-turn kill late game on an Inkmoth Nexus. And Runechanter's Pikes are $2 right now in Cool Stuff Inc., so they're very, very, very affordable. So then we have Sign of Bloods. These are commons. They've been reprinted a bunch of times. It's just card advantage. You draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. I thought about using Phyrexian Arena instead, but it is 3 mana and a 1 life per turn. And let's pull it up here. It's definitely an option. I'm definitely thinking about using it, but it does not trigger good old Runechanter's Pike, which you never know when that 1 damage of Infect would actually be the difference. But at the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and you lose a life. So it's definitely something you could think about running. You could actually think about running Bobs in this deck as well, Dark Confidants. But again, Dark Confidants are very expensive. They're running $60, $70 a piece right now. Another card I'm hoping does get reprinted in Modern Masters. Let's go down to Wrench Mine. Awesome, awesome card. Target player discards 2 cards unless they discard an artifact. Very powerful in this format. Of course, not as powerful against the artifact decks, as it only makes them get rid of 1, but in that case, you just side these out and maybe put in Duresses or something. Go for the Throw is another just removal, so you're running just a total of 5 removal in this. I run 4 Disfigures and 1 Go for the Throw. Oh, and 1 Dismember as well. That is another card that I do use. There are so many cards you could use instead of Go for the Throw. You could think about using the Victim of Night. You could use I'm trying to think of the one from Scars that gives target creature -4/-4. Black has so many 2 mana casting cost instant speed removals in Modern that you can just basically use your choice of which one you like the most. I got Geth's Verdicts in the sideboard for the Boggle enchantment deck, as it does make them sacrifice it, which does come in handy, like I said, against anything that's hexproof. But Go for the Throw and any other 2 mana casting cost removal is definitely, it's your choice. So use whichever one you feel the most comfortable against your meta with. So let's go on to Dismember. Just the one of, again, it is basically, you can cast it for 3, 2, or 1 and give a creature -5/-5. -5/-5 kills almost everything in this format, so very good. Now let's go on to the all-star of this deck, which is Phyrexian Crusader. Phyrexian Crusader, they are running around $2.50 right now, so it'll be $10 for the lot, the 4 of. It is a very, very good card in this deck because it dodges almost every removal in the deck. It dodges Pyroclasms, it dodges Lightning Bolts, it dodges the Path to Exile, which is the #1 used card in Modern right now. Path to Exile is the most used card. I'll say that again. So it dodges the most used creature removal in the deck, in the game. So very, very, like I said, and then Lightning Bolt's up there too. I think Lightning Bolt's like it's definitely the top 5 used cards, I think, in Modern. And so Phyrexian Crusader dodges both the 2 premier removals and can block the opposing, like Red deck wins. It's a nightmare if you just drop a Crusader. Can block all the Goblin Guides forever. They can't remove it, and you've got this 2/2 first strike protection from Red guy out that is going to be able, like I said, going to be able to block all their dudes forever and then get in there for 2 infect damage per turn if you decide to swing in. So then we have the other creature we're using a 4 of is Vampire Nighthawks. They're $1.50 a piece on CoolStuffInc.com. And again, in my opinion, they're one of the best black cards ever printed. Another card you could think about using is what is the vampire that makes you sack a creature, makes opponent sack a creature with a kicker of black? I'm trying to think what it is. I'll have to research it. But I do think the Vampire Nighthawk is the better card, and of course it's more budget friendly. It does die to most removal in Modern, it does die to Abrupt Decay, it does die to Lightning Bolt, does die to Path to Exile. But if you get this guy to stick, they have to deal with it, otherwise you start getting some life link, you start getting some life from his life link. And when you put the Runechanter Pike on him, First Strike and Death Touch is amazing. And it basically helps you stabilize it against anything aggressive, and that's why I like to include the Vampire Nighthawks. I've seen a lot of lists that just put these in the sideboard and instead use Phyrexian Vatmother, this person. I kept running against decks that Phyrexian Vatmother was just awful against. Any deck that uses Lingering Souls and they can chump him forever, he's just very, very bad. And I guess you can say, well, you can give him Swamp Walk, a Funeral Charm, and then swinging for I mean, a 4/5, which is really an 8/5 for 4 mana, is incredibly powerful, but it's very susceptible to any sort of removal. I mean, a 4/5 body is actually really good. It does dodge Abrupt Decay, it does dodge Lightning Bolt, it does not dodge Path to Exile, but, you know, it gets around a lot of the various removals in the set. But I tested this guy and tested this guy and tested this guy, and it definitely was the weakest creature, and I just thought the Vampire, like most decks, they do run just Vampire Nighthawk in the sideboard, and the Phyrexian Vatmother's main board, but I just did not like him, so I did end up cutting him. I do think that Skittles, just for 1 more mana and possibly 2 more mana to give him haste, is a lot more powerful of a finisher, and the regenerate's actually really good as well with the Skittles. So anyway, yeah, that's my reasoning for not using Phyrexian Vatmother. Skittles is a very, very cheap mythic. It's only $5. That's his nickname is Skittles. Sorry, it would be Skithiryx, the Blight Dragon, but we like to call him Skittles. Anyway, he's a very good. Like I said, I'm trying him out. I haven't really used him that much. This is definitely an experiment with Skittles, but in theory, it seems like it should work very well. And it'll only run you at $5, so it's not much of an investment for a trial card. Anyway, let's go into the sideboard here. We have 2 Duresses in the sideboard. I think it probably is something you could cut for more creature removal, but I like Duresses. It's another budget card. It can get rid of a lot of the cards like Disfigure is bad against. You can just bring in Duresses instead, and you definitely, if you're going in, it's a creature-less deck or like a deck like Tron or Eggs, you do have to cut a Go for Throat, Dismember, and 4 Disfigures, and so you want options to put in here. So my package for the creature-less decks are 4 Sadistic Sacraments and 2 Duresses. Sadistic Sacraments is very good because it can shut down a lot of the combo decks. Like Scapeshift, you can go grab it's any 3 cards, so you can go grab Mountains, you could go grab their Valakutes, you can go grab even their Scapeshifts if you want, and it's very hard for them to combo off after you take their combo pieces. Tron, you can grab an Eye of Ujin and a Emrakul, and or you could just grab 3 of their Tron lands, take 3 of their towers out, and if you get another Sadistic Sacrament, take the last one, and then they can't combo off. It's just a very incredibly powerful card. I wish there was a way that I could kicker him. I thought about using a Liliana of the Dark Realms to try to tick up, but she is kind of slow in Modern. I'll pull her up here. She's a very, very powerful card, though, if you can get her to stick. And then, of course, if she does tick up to her ultimate, then it'd be quite easy to kick her this Sadistic Sacrament. And the kicker is 15 cards instead of 3 cards. The cool thing about Sadistic Sacrament is very cheap. It'll only run you at 75 cents a piece. Here's Liliana of the Dark Realms here. So her -3 ability is actually really good. Her tutoring a swamp card is very good because almost everything in her deck is a swamp. And then the emblem, of course, of swamps tap for 4 is a way that you could power off the Sadistic Sacrament. So that's a card that I'm thinking about using. It does have good synergy with Vampire Nighthawk and Phyrexian Crusader, but I haven't tested it out. It does seem a little bit slow for Modern, so I have not included it. Of course, Liliana, the other Liliana, the traditional one that makes opponent sack a creature and discard cards, seems like it fits pretty good in this deck as well, as you already do wheedle down their deck quite easily. Infest comes in against the creature decks that are, try to swarm you, like Soul Sisters. I actually test this deck versus Soul Sisters, and it's very good against Soul Sisters. Soul Sisters have a hard time beating this deck because of the Phyrexian Crusaders and the Infests. So very good card. Infests are just uncommons. They've been reprinted a couple times, so very inexpensive. Lashwrithe, another finisher. Everything, again, is basically a swamp in your deck, and then, of course, Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth turns your Inkmoth Nexuses and Bojuka Bogs into swamps as well, and kicks up these guys to make them even bigger. It can replace Runechanter's Pike easily, or it can put it in as addition to some decks that have a problem dealing with artifacts. So, very good card. It gets really big. It can act as your finisher. It can equip to Inkmoth Nexus. You can do the combo with 4th turn Lashwrithe into 5th turn Skittles, which is, you know, usually a kill. So yeah, very good. Very, very fun deck. It has a lot of good matchups, like I said. Any sort of combo deck this deck is pretty good against. It does have some weak matchups, but I will play this in Modern Daily, and we'll see how it goes. This is one of my favorite Modern decks. It's very cheap. Like I said, it'll probably run you around a little over 100, maybe 150. I didn't quite add up the math, but the only thing that's really expensive in this deck is the Inkmoth Nexuses, the Inquisitions of Kozilek, and the Urborgs. So we'll go ahead and play this and see how it does. This is Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.